Hi, Shannon O'Flaherty here. You know that we are products of our ancestors and of our ancestral line, but that does not mean that we are bound to their beliefs. I just noticed something that one of my lovely alumni posted today, and it said that we can break generational curses. When people say it runs in the family, you can tell them, well, this is where it runs out, because you don't have to continue repeating the same pattern. And it really does amaze me that so many people never even really think about their ancestors, where we came from, why we behave the way that we do, why our family works the way it does, why our parents think the things that they do. It's because their parents thought those things, and their parents before them, our great-grandparents. So whenever we do personal work on ourselves, we are also healing our ancestral line. We're healing our ancestral line behind us, and we're healing our ancestral line in front of us too, because we can break the familial chains that bind us to these beliefs. So did you know that if you have a family that's filled with prejudice, that this comes from our ancestral line? Because back in the olden days, people feared God, and they stayed very close, and they stayed in their own neighborhoods, and they were very highly suspicious of anybody or anything that was remotely different from them, because they had to protect their land. It was a very sort of raw time. And did you know that if you have eye problems in this lifetime, eyesight problems, that, okay, it could actually be something wrong with your eyes, but it could also energetically be something that your grandmother or your grandfather didn't want to see. It could also be genetic, a genetic thing that comes down through the genetic line, but that's also ancestral. If there is a curse on your family, I know some people think of curses. Usually the signs of an ancestral curse is not just one bad thing happening, but a series of events. And it doesn't usually just happen with one generation of your family. So a famous family that probably has a line of curses on it is the Kennedy family. If you think of all of the generations and all of the tragedies that have happened, and usually it's not just one tragedy, but a bunch of tragedies, not just a kind of bad thing, but serious kind of things. So if you have that pattern going on in your life, then maybe you want to come and talk to me so that we can track back and break that curse. But also really deeply held subconscious belief systems come from our ancestral lines, and it's passed down through generation and generation. So if you've ever worked with me before or been in some of my classes, I might have spoken to you about the familial baseline, because every family has a kind of default program in their family. And has it never occurred to you, like, well, why is that? Why is that familial baseline that way in my family? So in my family, I believe that our familial baseline is sadness and shame. And so when I look back at my ancestral line, so my great grandmother on my mother's side gave birth to 7 babies, and they all starved to death. So she lost 7 babies, or maybe my grandfather was the 7th baby or the 8th. I'm not sure. But anyway, there was at least 6 or 7 babies who died. Now, that's tragedy. She lived out in the country, in the back country in Virginia, and she wasn't producing enough milk. And I guess they didn't know enough about these things. So she's planted 7 sycamore trees for each of these babies. That's really, really sad. And if you track back in your ancestral line, you can see patterns of sadness and things that have happened. It might just be on your mother's side, it might just be on your father's side, or it could be on both sides of the family. So if you're looking at genetic dispositions like alcoholism, that often runs on both sides of the family. It certainly does in my family line, which is why, thank God, I didn't become an alcoholic, because I could have easily done that. But because I was up close, up front and personal with one, that was the gift in that situation. That was me finding appreciation so that I didn't go down that same line. So if bad things are happening, or you feel like you're stuck in a repeating pattern, and repeating patterns are just this, it's a pattern. It doesn't mean that it's the exact same circumstance showing up again and again, but it's the same sort of energy around something. So if you're constantly sabotaging yourself, or if you constantly feel in fear about something, like it's the same sort of trigger over and over, or if you have abundance issues, this also comes from our ancestral lines, because back in the olden days, they worked to survive. Their days were spent basically finding a way to eat, to have clothes, to have shelter, and to trade. And so things are much easier these days, except that we still have these very limiting abundance beliefs. Like we have to struggle to live, we have to work very hard to earn a living, life has to be hard. If you feel that you're not trusting people, all of these things can be ancestral beliefs. They may not be. They also might be limiting subconscious beliefs you just have from this lifetime because of how you've been raised and your parents and all of that. But a lot of stuff that we're holding really comes from our ancestors. And we're holding the mantle and we think this is how it has to be, and this is just how it is. And we go through life plugging away. But you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to. You can change whatever you have going on that isn't working for you in your mind. Because our reality, whether you're going to choose to be appreciative about something and live life to its fullest, or whether you're going to choose to be upset and sad about something and stay bummed out all of the time, is really up to you. Because our emotions, although we feel them and they're all valid, how we respond to them is how we can change our reality right here and now. But a lot of these things come from our ancestors and we're holding on to them and we don't even realize it. So if you think that you might have some repeating ancestral pattern going on, I'd really love to speak to you. Because besides helping people change their limiting belief systems in this lifetime and clearing people's energies, I also track back ancestral lines and clear ancestral curses. Sometimes entities, people die and they don't go to the light, they zip into somebody else instead because they want to keep an eye on the rest of the family. Sometimes we reincarnate within the same ancestral line. I believe that I'm like my 5th great grandmother reincarnated or something like that. I don't remember which number. It's really, really interesting when you start to track back and look at all of that. Look at where you've come from and what was going on in your family history, because it can explain a lot about who you've become today. So if this interests you, I'd love to have a chat with you. And I offer 20-minute free conversations because I really want to connect with all of you. And I want to see if I can help you have an aha moment and see if we could work together, because that would be really fun too. So that's my little speech for tonight. I love you all very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.